For our first story, the Member of Parliament for Adansia Sokwa, Kwabena Tahiru Hammond, is blaming leadership of Parliament for creating unnecessary tension with the proposal to build a new chamber. The Parliamentary Service from his agenda. However, Katie Hammond told Aisha Ibrahim on PM Express that the leadership of Parliament could have handled the issue better.
It's been badly handled by all sides. I mean, how can you come up with the development of this matter that the members of Parliament don't know about? Yeah. I mean, you might say this is an indictment on ourselves. So be it. I heard it the first time on the radio. Okay. On the leadership, you know, I mean, everyone is complaining. What is it? What is it? What is going on? This is a national issue. It's been unfortunate. You know what's happened about this. I just spoken to our leader, Oseche Mensah. For 20 minutes, he was also telling me about things he himself didn't also know, things that he didn't come to his knowledge. And got to know today. He was telling me today, but that apparently few things have been going on that he, the majority leader, even didn't know about. I mean, it's all been properly handled.
And Katie Hammond insists Parliament needs a new chamber, adding the current facility creates a lot of inconveniences for members.
The NC. Number one, we don't have places of convenience. The one or two that we have out there, you get in there, the visitors, the public, the journalists, they take it. You would want to rush into the loo and then come back and make a statement. You go in there, it's all full. You can't, the one or two of them have members of Parliament. Go in there and see if any members of Parliament is taken. We don't have a restaurant. The little place that we occasionally get some water or that, go and see. Press, visitors and everybody. It's so insecure. You have no clue what to do. I mean, it is not, I mean, when we talk about Parliament, and people are talking about comparing Ghana to Westminster Parliament, who is talking about Westminster Parliament?
Moving on, a governance expert is advocating financing of political parties as a means of addressing the growing monetization of Ghana's political system. Professor Achuaye notes the enforcement of existing regulatory laws and designing others to empower whistleblowers will also go a long way to save the country from this canker. It was speaking at a forum in Accra where stakeholders called for urgent action to nip the practice in the bud before it denies the country of the needed democratic development. There's more in the following report.
The forum, dubbed Money, Influence, Corruption and Capture, Can Ghana's Democracy Be Safeguarded?, was organized by the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs. Professor Achuaye, who was the guest speaker, acknowledged that although money plays a good role in politics, politicians must be developmentally minded to reduce the public's mistrust of them.
We need regulatory reforms. There is this Roman historian, Tacitus, who made a very important point that in a state where corruption abounds, laws must be very numerous. He made that important point. So let us have more laws, but the laws must also be enforced. It's not a question of the size or the number of laws, but they must be there and they must be enforced. There is the need to enforce internal and external regulation, and then, of course, appropriate sanctions indicated. I've also appropriate sanctions followed, where the rules and regulations are infracted. And then, of course, I said that either the EC is strengthened or a new body is created to take over regulation of political parties. We need to have a more robust legal framework. I've said that already. You see, the law must go beyond mere filing to indicate the exact sources of funding and expenses of political parties. This may regulate the money raised by aspirants and the candidates themselves that do not go through party structures. The other point I want to raise in terms of regulation is effective sanctions. We need sanctions. We need to enforce sanctions. We are not be able to do that. And of course, appropriate sanctions should be available, ranging from maladministrative penalties to minor infractions, to refusing political parties or candidates from participating in elections. These have been done in some countries in the past, and so we need to deal with. So are parties deregistered because of not following regulations about party finance, etc., etc.?
Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu observed that monetization threatens the country's democracy and called for concerted efforts to address it. He devised the threats in three.
Monetization of our democracy is one of a national problem that requires our collective efforts to mitigate through collective reforms in order that this threat to the practice of multi-party constitutional democracy with the growing ritual of money politics in Ghana's electoral processes with dire implications for preserving the rule of the elites to the exclusion of non-elites and making political participation a preserve of wealthy and rich people remains a threat to our future democratic practice. And therefore, I share in his thoughts and share in his view that collectively as a country we need to deal with the problem. Now, I have said that there are three threats to Ghana's democracy following the promulgation of multi-party constitutional democracy in 1993. The act of vigilantism that we are through legislation and through moral suasion trying to deal with. But more importantly, the inability of the elected political elite to garner the political courage and will to punish it within the framework of wholesale legislation is one of those threats in addition to the monetization of our democracy. The second and probably the third threat is the growing erosion of public confidence in the elected by the electorate, maybe because of our inability to attend to their needs, to meet their economic aspirations and others.
Majority Leader Oseiche Mensah Bonsu warned if monetization is not stamped out of politics in Ghana, the most intelligent and wise will be denied the opportunity in the country's democratic space.
Monetization has the potential to turn our elections into a playing field for people with fat wallets and the criminally minded, and certainly not the intelligent, knowledgeable, or the wise. The aggressive rate of monetization in the Ghanaian politics should be a source of grave concern to all who hold this nation dear.
On his part, Chairman of the National Peace Council, Professor Emmanuel Asante, said monetization is breeding corruption, which he says is denying the country of the rich human resource to engender the needed development.
The unfortunate effect of monetization of politics in Ghana include breeding corruption in our public sector, deny the country of a best human resources, a demonstration of lack of patriotism, and eventually rob the country of its hard-won gain of peace and development. Indeed, the current violent political vigilantism bedeviling political activities in the country can be partly attributed to the unfortunate monetization of politics. Unfulfilled promises of money, material, and job rewards made to young people who are recruited to facilitate the election of candidates by some candidates are some of the reasons these young people resort to violence when these promises are not fulfilled. You have an albatross hanging on your neck, politicians. Monetization of our political activities can also lead to state capture in a situation where faceless, economically powerful individuals call the shot. They are faceless, but they are economically powerful, and they are the ones who will call the shot. A candidate was telling me that he had been to a place to declare his intention of standing for a political office. And after he had met the elders of the town and everything, when he was leaving, somebody sat there, looked at him and said,
The forum is a sequel to an earlier one held in May this year to move forward a national discourse on the need to root out monetization from the country's body politics. Emefa Ewenam Atiamwa Eli for Joy News, Accra.
Moving on, the Attorney General's office has discontinued the case filed against 9 persons charged with treason, felony, over plans to secede from the Volta region. The 9, who are members of a group calling itself the Homeland Study Group Foundation, say the regions were formerly part of an independent state before being made to join Ghana in a plebiscite. They have set May 9, 2019 as date to declare independence when law enforcement agencies effected the arrest. Senior State Attorney Winifred Sapong on Monday told the court she had been instructed to withdraw the case. Presiding Judge Justice Jerome Nkrumah struck out the case as withdrawn. In the Upper West region, the Deputy Regional Minister, Amidu Chinua Isahaku, has admonished parents and guardians to take keen interest in the education of their wards. He says parents and guardians need to make regular visits to schools of their wards, as they would have done to headsmen if they were to have crowds. Amidu Chinua Isahaku made the statement at the launch of the 25th anniversary celebration of Lasia Tuolo Senior High School at Lasia Tuolo in the Upper West region. JoyNews Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafik Salam reports from the area.
St. Ignatius of Loyola Senior High School, or better known as Lasia Tuolo Senior High School, was started some 24 years ago with 120 students comprising 80 boys and 40 girls, though actual construction of the classrooms and dormitories started 3 years earlier. Government in 1997 reduce the burden of the Parent-Teacher Association, who hitherto provided 1 square meal a day for the students, which was woefully inadequate, by absorbing the schools into the boarding school system. Lasia Tuolo Senior High School has a current student population of a little over 1,000, with 78 teaching and non-teaching staff. Headmaster of the school, Banangwia Emmanuel, paid glowing tribute to former headmasters and teachers of the school for the enormous contribution in making the little-known school from the Lasia Tuolo enclave a giant in education, despite the little or non-existent resources and infrastructure at their disposal. One major challenge faced by the school as it prepares to celebrate its Silver Jubilee next year is the inadequate infrastructure, a special dining hall, dormitory block, and fence wall. The school is replete with uncompleted projects which the headmaster thinks, if completed, will not only improve teaching and learning at the school, but will improve the security of students as well.
These projects include the new administration block, the fence wall, 12-unit classroom storage building, and the rest. It will create space and security for academic work to strive without any hindrance. Apart from that, the school is without an assembly hall, and our goal will be complete if these major needs are met before the climax of the anniversary this year in July 2020.
Deputy Upper West Regional Minister Amidu Chinua Isahaku admonished parents to complement the work of teachers by paying regular visits to the school, as they would have done to herdsmen if they were to have crowd.
Your child cannot be dumped in the school, and you will never find out how your child is doing in school. I know that in our various communities, our parents, especially our fathers, go to greet the Fulanis every morning because the Fulanis are taking care of their cattle. So if you have a child under the custody of a teacher, the headmaster, why can't you find some time to visit the school, say hello to the teachers, and find out how your children are performing.
Upper West Regional Director of Education, Duncan Inso, praised the school for their performance at the ongoing National Science and Maths Quiz competition, where they reached the quarterfinal stage.
This is a school that is admired all over the country, all over the region. I admire you sincerely when you were participating diligently during the maths and science quizzes.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam, Lassie Tuolu.
Down south to the Ashanti region, a family of a man who died in the custody of the police in Kumasi on Sunday is disputing claims that their deceased relative jumped out of a police vehicle on the way to the police station. 35-year-old Kofi Poku's death has since fueled packets of violence at Tafunshaiso, where the incident occurred. A statement from the Ashanti Region Police Command indicates that the police had pursued and arrested Kofi Poku for failing to adhere to a signal to stop on the road. Eyewitnesses, however, say the victim was rather assaulted by police and was too weak to jump off a police pickup vehicle. Nanaya Ujima has more in the following report.
Until his demise on Sunday, the mobile phone dealer and repairer was one of the individuals who championed interest of traders at KJTIA.
Military men around the military zone. We're not in the military zone, but what we are telling the ministry is that we know how the economic hardship is.
Here is the Stroud's mother, Nanekria Bema, who managed just a few words.
He was not a troublemaker. He was everybody's friend at work and home. He fended for my mother and I.
According to eyewitnesses, they saw him rush out of his car in an attempt to escape from the police, but two community police assistants chased and later arrested him. Prince Amos says he was beaten and weakened on the spot. I saw the community police assistant push him to the ground. The two started beating him. I asked why, and none responded. Some women there suggested I call in more people. On our return, we pleaded with them to allow take him to the hospital for attention. So later we bring him to the police station. They will not understand. So we poured water on him. Gun building police personnel came in and put him in the bucket of their pickup. A misunderstanding broke up between the community and police after the victim died. Prince explains how. We followed them to the hospital. When we got there, he was lying on the ground, surrounded by nurses. He didn't respond to anything, so we suspected he was dead. Later, some young men from the community came and started arguing with the police. More of them came and outnumbered the police, who then drove off. Later, a reinforcement arrived and started firing warning shots to disperse the crowd, while they arrested a few people. A staff of Tafo Government Hospital was manhandled on suspicion she aided the police personnel escape. Medical Superintendent Dr. Kwame Ajeman says the victim is in stable condition but wants security reinforcement at the facility. He confirms Kofi Poku was brought to the hospital dead.
When the patient was brought to the facility, that the patient was already dead. Any body marks? Oh, that I cannot tell for now. So I think there's going to be a forensic investigation, and it will be premature for me to state anything in that direction.
Tempers continue to flare up in the community as relatives demand justice following the police statement explaining the cause of death.
It's the cause of the police that has caused our brother's death. We won't let this go, because this is not the first time. The police are doing this thing, and nobody is telling them what they are doing is wrong. But we will wake up against them.
Kofi Poku left behind 2 children and a wife. From Kumasi for JoyNews, Nanaya Ojima reporting.
And that's it for the latest news updates. Well, look, we have more news. It's not only from the camp of the Black Stars, where we know ultimately following that match, in that penalty shootout which they lost to Tunisia, they are kicked out of the ongoing African Cup of Nations being convened in Egypt, but also from the National Science and Masquerades, where we know now we have granted finalists Ogasco, St. Peter's, as well as Presec. Just think about it. That duel or that great contest will be on Thursday. It's all live here on this channel as well as our relevant social media platforms. But in the meantime, we have to look at what stories there are on the front and back pages of the newspapers. Myself, Mama Yusu Amboaje, and we also have Kojo Yankson. But in the meantime, we're also telling you about the Kumie Preko demonstration. It's going to start from the Kwame Nkrumah interchange area. I should be there live for you. Stay with us.